Welcome back, Middle Age Grind. And today I want to go over something with you. It's the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And there's a lot of stuff on the news and things, and you might be watching some documentaries. And I want to share my experience and how it shaped my life some 20 years ago. And in a lot of ways, it was very profound in my trajectory, my family's, my future family's trajectory. And I just kind of want to go over that with you here and what was happening. So to give you some perspective here, I was 23 years old at that time. I was living with my parents. I was graduated from LSU in '04 and was working in life insurance, Northwestern Mutual. And it was kind of tough, and moved back home with my parents at 22, and at 23 I actually started with JP Chase Bank right before Katrina, about 2 weeks prior to that, and was living in St. Bernard Parish, which is a suburb of New Orleans, and it was hit bad. And what I mean by that, I think that parish had, which would be like a county, 70,000, 65,000 people. Virtually every home was inundated with water from 3 feet to 20 feet. Take your pick. On average, it was the height of the roof, of the ceiling. And when I say inundated with water, imagine muck and marsh mud this thick, minimum in your house. If the homes were to be rebuilt, total gut renovation, okay? From the inside out. Most people did, my parents did, my in-laws did. It was a long process. Can't believe it's 20 years ago. In some ways it seems long, in some ways it seems the other day. I really didn't have much other than, stuff, my parents had insurance, thank God. And, I remember my mom asking me, how much you need just to get on your feet, and, a few $1,000s or something. And I moved back to Baton Rouge in an apartment and worked for Chase Bank for the next 2 years before State Farm. And this kind of how my path got to State Farm. When I worked at Chase Bank in Baton Rouge. Now, Baton Rouge is 90 miles from New Orleans upriver. It's where I went to college. I lived up there for 4 years, really liked it. And it didn't get hit in Katrina like New Orleans. I mean, there were some power outages and stuff, but no flooding. So in a lot of ways, it became an outpost for Katrina refugees. And so were other cities, Houston and Atlanta, all over the South. But people were coming in, we were open on Sundays for like 2 months, and I worked. I had nothing else to do but work, and I did. And of all the insurance companies, I'd say for the first 2.5 months, I saw one company with people coming in with checks from insurance companies. And that was green checks, never forget, and they're the same color today, and it was State Farm. And I didn't see Allstate, I didn't see Progressive, I saw State Farm. And I'd kind of been thinking about getting into the insurance game, industry, so to speak. And when I saw that, I said, man, that's who I want to be with. Customers were generally happy. There's always, you're going to hear extremes. A lot of it had to do with if you had flood insurance or you did not. That was a big deal for a lot of people. But regardless, if you had coverage, they paid claims, and they paid it on a pretty decent amount of time. And that kind of set me off on my course. And then from there, I started reaching out, started going to mixers, went to an open house, and that's how I got started with State Farm. I worked for an agent. I did a little kind of interview to be an approved candidate, and a boss, Keith Thibodeau, says, I think you need to talk to somebody. His name was David Wilcox. Great guy in Gonzales, right down there in Baton Rouge. Left Chase Bank, took a dive, and it was a good company, and I think I would have had a great career if I'd have stayed with them too. But took the dive, and I went and worked for him for about 6 months, and then I went to Oklahoma. My future wife and I, packed up in 2006, and we stayed there till 2011 before I got back to Louisiana. But that all stemmed from Katrina. I really firmly believe, had Katrina not happened, none of those things would have happened. I don't know if I'd be with State Farm today, and I'm very happy to be here. It also taught me, you see people at their lowest. So to give you another thing too, we didn't stay for the storm. We did evacuate. At the time, it was my girlfriend, but my wife. We went to her relatives in middle Mississippi around Jackson. And, and we even lost power up there for a couple of weeks, but no flooding or anything. And when the reports started coming in, and my in-laws had just built a house. My mom and dad just built a house. It was a less than a year old, nice homes, and not knowing uncertainty and insurance, and some people had it, some people didn't, and then the government ended up stepping in, but that was later down the line. And it taught me about insurance and to protect what you have, and putting some things in place. I didn't ever want to be in that position, that vulnerable position that I saw a lot of people in. And it really, can't believe it's been 20 years ago today. And it was around this time, I'm filming right now, it's 7 over here as I speak. And the storm was passing the New Orleans area at this time, but all the levees broke around 9 o'clock. And that's when the water poured in everywhere and just kept pouring in and inundating people. When you've heard the stories, I don't think I really knew anyone personally who perished, but I knew a lot of people who stayed, and those stories were, they might have been there for a week or two before they were rescued and taken somewhere and put on a bus to Houston or whatever. I mean, it's crazy. I know you've seen the documentaries, but Katrina played a big role. And I'd always tell the story. The year before, we had a hurricane coming our way, Ivan. And it was kind of like a Katrina, and everybody evacuated. And I was working at Northwestern Mutual when I had a lot of suits and stuff and, clothes. And I remember packing all the stuff in my Honda Accord. And then that was in '04, and it dodged us and didn't really do anything. And Katrina's coming, and people had fatigue from evacuating. That's a true thing if you hear that. Oh, here we go again. I remember thinking, man, I'm not bringing all my stuff like that. That's ridiculous. And lo and behold, when it hit and we lost everything, I ended up going back to Baton Rouge about a week later and staying with a friend, Eric Collins, who was with State Farm today. And at his apartment, he had 1 semester left to graduate, and I'd already, graduated, but I was working at the bank and transferred. And he said, "Yeah, man, come stay with us." It was like 4 guys, and I was the 5th guy. I pitched in, the rent's like I'm paying $100 a month or something, and to stay there a month. And they took me in, and he's like, "I'm gonna come help you move your stuff, in the parking lot." And he comes to my car, and I open my door. I had maybe my little travel bag with my toothpaste and aftershave and deodorant. I said, "This is all I got, dude." And he's like, "What?" And then we went to the store. I mean, I had money. I mean, I wasn't destitute or anything, but literally had change of clothes and toothpaste and deodorant. That was about it. And had to go to Walmart or wherever and just buy a few things. And then I got an apartment about a month and a half later. One opened up, and that worked out. And I stayed out in Baton Rouge for about a year and a half before making my way to Oklahoma. And that's where my first child was born. And I got married when we were living in Oklahoma in 2008. But Katrina really set trajectories in people's lives that, imagine wherever you live at, anywhere in America, and your whole town, it's uninhabitable. Tornadoes are terrible, and it's kind of the same thing, but a lot of times what you hear with tornadoes it'll take out a street, and next door it's like nothing happened. Well, when this flood came through, and you get on average 8 to 10 feet of water from the marsh of Gulf of Mexico, let me tell you what, it is not a pleasant sight. You know, it took months and years for some people to move back to that place, and I remember working at the bank, and you know, there's some people that never saw them again. You know, like, I know that they made it, but I remember talking to my boss at the time, and he got in touch with me some kind of way just to check on me about a week later, and he said, "Yeah, man, good luck," you know. And I was still with the same company, and he was too, but he was transferred somewhere else. I never saw the guy again, and that's so many cases like that. And it really, really taught me perspective and what can happen. And don't ever believe, oh, Miss So-and-so is 95 years old, and she said they never had water. You never flooded here. That don't mean crap. Just, Miss So-and-so is not 2,000 years old, and just because it never happened even 2,000 years ago doesn't mean it can't happen now. I mean, the world's a very unpredictable place, but in a lot of ways, I think it made a lot of people stronger. Sure, it sure has me. I can tell you that. I wanted to share this with you. I never really, I make this for my kids, and I know they watch it. They're young, but hopefully, you know, one day they'll understand these kind of things. And when life throws you curveballs, and inevitably they will, life will, it's how you react to them. And how does it make you a better person, a stronger man, a stronger woman? And that's the moral of today's story. So 20 years, Katrina anniversary today. Wow, can't believe it. August 29th, 2005. So I'll see you guys real soon on the Middle Age Grind.